in to my Restream account. What a thing. I can't see the chat. Maybe I can see the chat. Let me see. I don't know why it doesn't. I think I did this last time too. I don't remember how I fixed it. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all well. Chat. So I can see, well, I can see the chat maybe. Hey, is that a thing? Can I see this chat? Oh, okay, I can see you guys. Good. Awesome. Sorry to scare you. Kind of sorry, not sorry. This morning, I just had breakfast. Because it's, what is it? 9:03 in the morning. It's my mama bear cup. Is my mama bear. And I had a breakfast of, what did I eat? Tuna. Just took a tin of tuna, put it in a bowl. Took a little chipotle sauce in there. In Canada, we call that chipotle sauce. A couple of cheese strings. I mean, I stripped them down, so they're like cheese strings. And a pickle. So, that's a pretty good breakfast. And coffee. Hey, I know this is a bit off topic. I've applied to CGS Spectrum twice and haven't heard back. What should I do? And I've already completed one course before. Oh my goodness. Whose bounty? Send me an email. And I will follow up on that. This is my cup. It is. This is the last cup of coffee. I got myself up this morning at 4:15 a.m. and I've already drank an entire pot of coffee. That's the way I roll. And so anyways, after my mama bear, you don't mess with mama bear. You gotta say it like that too. You don't mess with mama bear. That's whenever I'm in line at Costco, I just stand behind people and go, It doesn't do anything. It doesn't get me better service. It doesn't get me to the front of the line faster. But it does pass the time. Anyway, what was I doing? What were we doing? Animation. So I started thinking about foie gras. You guys know foie gras? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's that goose liver where they like, this is going to make me laugh because it makes me nervous, but where they force feed a goose, like with a funnel and stuff. It's illegal in California. You can shoot a goose, but you can't force feed it to death. Anyway, I've never had it. That's my whole story. What do you think? Am I on the Discord? At whose bounty are you on the Discord? Good, because I am not on the Discord. When the XDDD that Gaming Souling did, when I got my first job in the industry, I was such a noob that people would put a colon and a parentheses at the end of a sentence. I was afraid to ask anybody because I thought it was a technical thing. And I didn't know what it was. And one day, a guy that I worked with, he put a colon and a P at the end of a sentence. Colon and a P. And so I said, hey, Tony, what's the deal with the colon and the P? And he did this. And I thought, oh man, he won't even tell me. He just stuck his tongue out at me. I didn't know what it was. My email is markpullyblank@cgspectrum.edu.au. Is it not on here somewhere? You can just send it to pullyblanks, PULLYBLANKS @gmail.com. A little slicker. Digging through here, finding ourselves sweet animation. What? One more try. So foie gras. Anyway, so what they do is you force feed this goose, and then and then its liver swells, and then it dies because you force fed it. You eat the liver. Has anybody here ever had foie gras? Anybody? Don't be ashamed. I just recently had beef tongue tacos. So it's kind of the same. No, not the same thing. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go picture in picture. So last week, you have, and it's not great, Kirsty. Hey, Kirsty, of course you have. When you say it's not great, usually that means anything that's any sort of food that's exotic and it's not great just means it didn't taste like chicken. So anytime somebody eats something weird, like, oh yeah, I've had snake. How is it? It's like chicken. And that just means it wasn't weird. I had the weirdest food I had was what is it, balut? Balut, the 14. We may have covered this. The 14-year-old duck fetus. Anyway, it also wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. Pretty terrible. Excuse me for 1 second. All right, I'm back. Last week we covered cameras, a little bit of cinematography. I think I shared the Brad Bird on compositing thing, all that kind of stuff. It was very, very fun. This week I thought we could cover, we could go over a little bit of facial stuff. Now, here's what I'd like to do. Is I'd like to actually, I have this sound file, and I have this animation that goes with this sound file. That goes with, not in the face, not in the face, not in the face. Not in the face. This is just blocked in, but there's no face on this guy. So it doesn't do us any good. So I'm going to import a rig with a face on it. And I have a few of these rigs. Let's grab one. Let's see, what should we use? Let's try, I really, really like, there we go. That's rigs. Oh, I like the David rig. David and Dana are nice rigs. They're for sale. Somewhere, I think. They're a little heavy for my puny little overpriced Mac, but they're pretty cool. So here we go. Let's turn on. I'm gonna panels. Sorry, show NURBS curves. I'm gonna size them up. Is this dude? I'm gonna hide this dude. Select. I'm gonna select the Herc rig, and oh, I already have them. I'm gonna make display layers. I already had display layers because I'm so clever. I could size him up, but I don't need to. So now I'm going to block him out. So I'm just going to take this character. I'm going to block him out. I'm going to do a little bit of splining and refining. And I'm going to do a facial pass on it. All in the span of what is now about an hour and a half. Right. Kirsty, what's the weirdest thing you've eaten? Don't answer that. I mean, you could answer that. Okay, so I'm gonna make a couple of adjustments to this rig first and foremost. The first thing I'm going to do is hide all this facial stuff. So I'm gonna go back into the outliner and I'm gonna go into the rig group and I'm gonna go face group right there and I'm going to make a display layer over here. You guys see this okay? Oh, my big fat head is in the way of the display layer. Move it, big fat head. There's my big fat head. Okay. So making a display layer. I'm gonna call it face. Face. And then turn it off. Ooh. Maybe though. Nope. Good. So I still have everything I need. Next, you'll see this rig, and a lot of rigs have these nowadays. They have these bend controllers, which are super cool when you're finessing, but I don't necessarily use them that much when I'm first starting to pose out the character. So I'm going to get rid of those bend controllers. Well, where do you find those bend controllers? Well, the first place I always look when I'm opening up a new rig and I don't really know my way around it is I look at the character node. Called something different in all the rigs. This one they call it the main. You guys all still hear me? Quiet on the chat. Somebody tell me you can hear me. Anyone? Someone? Anyone? Did I lose you? Oh. Good. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the first place I look is this control node or whatever they call it. Circle. Rig. And usually that contains all kinds of secrets in here. One of them is the bend visibility. Turn that off. 0. There, cleaning stuff up. I'm going to use FK arms for this. Looks like I can turn off the arrow visibilities if I wanted to, or aim visibilities. That's the stuff that aims the elbows or the knees at, I believe. It looks like they're already on, so I'm not sure what that's all about. What about finger visibility? What goes on there? Just the finger controls. Well, I'm going to use those. Let's have those. These little crosses at the top are your FKIK controllers. We're all good with that. Got one for the torso. Ooh. Might prefer that. Ooh, I do. I don't know if I do. Isn't it? Nope. Get out of there. Out of there. This is better. Oh, wait a second. It's worth it to do a little bit of due diligence. Yeah, nope. I like this thing for my hips. It's less intrusive. He's a little bit for some reason I don't have textures. It's okay. I can live with it. And then the feet, of course, you know, you're going to want to check out the feet, see what the feet do, how they pivot. This one's pretty straightforward. I look over here in the control panel and you can see you have a roll and all that kind of. If you want to use it, I'd likely not use those and just use the components I can see. Okay. Not in the face. So my first pose runs from frame 40, looks like. We'll go from frame 40 to frame 70. Love it. Let's block this thing out. So I'm going to go into my, make sure my auto key is on. I'm going to go into my preferences, and I'm going to switch my default out tangents to stepped. There we go. I'm going to select my entire rig and hit S and drop a key on there. Up top here, you can see I've turned off all my selection stuff. Hey, Paul. And now I'm going to, this is an image plane behind me. I don't need that. I'm going to turn that off as well. Great. It might not be a bad idea to have a plane down here on the ground, but that's okay. I'm not going to do that. I also need to have a camera. Now I have no reference other than this guy. And because I've done this before, and because I've lost my reference that I originally had for the piece, I'm going to just pull it out of my head, and I'll refer back to this geo if I feel I need to. But I think I got this dialed pretty well. It's really, really simple. It's really just three poses. My 3 poses are as follows. The word not is going to go here. Now, before I get too far ahead of myself, oh, weird. Look at this. Weird stuff happening. Come on, Maya. Be a jerk. What the heck? What happened there? Wait, we'll do one thing in a moment like this. I'm still going to animate this whole thing. You watch. I'm going to exit out of Maya, close Maya, and reopen it. I'm using Maya 2019 because I'm an old dog. And 2020 would just be a new trick. Have you ever been in an airplane that's been struck by lightning? Good question. How'd you get that blue backdrop that looks so much nicer than the traditional gray one? Paul, that's a great question. It's a fantastic question. I'm going to go show, none, show, NURBS curves, and polygons. So the gray background comes from, if we go up here to Windows, settings, preferences, color settings, right there. The blue background again. And then you open up 3D views, and you can have a great time. Just a great time. Really great time. Gradient bottom. Lighten the gradient bottom up a little. There you go. Ah, it's pleasant. Okay. Cameras. Good. Turn this off. And I am going to say, I turned the grid off. I don't like the grid. It's ugly. Now he's going to be, I'm going to put the camera here. Because he's going to be, I know from my old Geo, my big guy here, the end of it, he's facing away. I want to see his chest still. If I had the camera on this side, that would be really cumbersome. This is a much better silhouette. So that's where my camera is going to go. So I'll just place him somewhere around here. I'm going to set him up so I can see his entire body. Hey there, Mark, a question out of topic. I'm curious, how do you distinguish motion capture animation to keyframe animation? I find it hard to distinguish, especially in games. That's a good question. Motion capture animation typically just has way more detail. It's way more subtle. It has all the bits and the parts. Keyframed animation, in games. I mean, there's a lot of that too, but if it's super choppy and looks kind of weird and the jumps are like and stiff, it's likely keyframe animation. Most of the animation I think you'll find in games and gameplay anyways is going to be keyframe, or sorry, motion capture. Just because they have all these cycles, and so run cycles and things like that, they'll plop them in. Unless the game is like really stylized, then you might not see it. But most of the time, you can see it in the movement itself. If it's a bit more fluid, has a bit more detail, it's likely motion capture. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell. Sometimes the motion capture can be really messy and dirty, but it's getting better. Okay, I'm going to select view. I'm going to create camera from view. And then I'm going to select the little camera button. Oh, the big fat head's in the way again. Why am I even on screen? Hey, Daryl, good to see you. Welcome. It's been a long time, my friend. I know you're going to get about 15 minutes into this stream and think to yourself, it hasn't been long enough. That's fine. I have to live with me every day. Okay, so I've created this camera. I am going to select panels, or sorry, I'm going to select my camera here. It's called Perspective 2. I'm going to double click on it. Just call Camera. I think I already have a camera called Camera. I don't. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go into my, or I'm going to tear it off. So Panels, tear off Copy. Here's my camera. Doesn't really do much for me yet. I'm going to go back to my perspective view. There it is. So now I can move my perspective view around. It doesn't hurt my camera at all. Now I'm going to go into my attribute editor, and I'm going to make this, let's make this a nice 2.35. Let's make it really cinematic. Boom. My aspect ratio 2.35. You're going to love it. I'm going to go down here to my display options, turn on my film gate. Ooh, yeah. And I'm going to crank it up to black and opaque. So now it looks like a movie. Brought to you by Craft Slices. Craft Slices. Made from plasticine. Only the finest plasticine. Okay. Now, once I have my camera where I want it, this is where I want it. What the hell? Why can't I put it there? I can put it there. Remember, like, camera sort of one-on-one, or sorry, 101? Camera 101, yeah. It's just some tricks. If you're going to, not tricks, but rules of thumb, rules of lens. If you're going to crop your character, you do not want to crop them at the ankles. And you don't want to crop them. Well, basically the hardest place to crop them is on the legs. So if you're going to crop in close, like a medium close-up, crop at the thighs. If you're not going to crop at the thighs, then just show the entire character. For all of our, for what we got going on, I'm going to show the entire character. So there's my camera. I'm going to lock it. Oops, sorry. I'm going to lock it with this little icon right here. And that's all I need to know. And if I had two monitors, which I do, but not going, you can't see them both, so that's not going to do us any good. I'm going to just park it up here. Kind of small. I don't need, oh, I'm going to turn off the nerve scripts as well. I don't need to see much of it. And if I want to see more of it, I can just do that. I'll just park it up here in the corner so I can see it. Now, let's block in our first pose on frame 45. I'm going to turn off the sound because it's super annoying. Watch it. And I'm going to create my first pose, which my character is going to be crouched down, bring the legs out and back. You know how I always like the feet to be turned out a little bit. It's kind of one of my many pet peeves is when I see walks or anything that anybody's animated and the character's feet are straight ahead. Thanks, Daryl, for the kind words. It has been a while. You've forgotten how terrible I am. And my voice has gotten deeper, too. I think it's allergies. Or maybe just that I'm super old. Both. Okay, now let's bend this guy over. So when I'm posing the torso, I like to pose it together. I don't like to take just one controller and bend that, and then take another controller and bend that. I like to shift select them. Now this rig, we have this controller here that's on the spine that's pointing up. I'm not crazy about that. I'm going to level it out first, and then I'm going to shift select these two top chest controllers, bend them over, bring his weight back a little bit. I'm going to pull his hips up, here. I'm going to click off my face on the stream so it doesn't look so crazy. Well, I can resize it. You don't need to see much of me. Tiny. Such a small. Oops. Keep his weight evenly even over both feet. Bring his head up a little bit. That looks pretty good. When I do this, I know eventually I'm going to be back like tilted this way. So I want to be able to get some overlap. So I'm going to cheat his chest. Well, actually, this foot's forward a bit. So if this foot's forward a little bit, I'm going to bring the hips around that direction slightly. I really, 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 really need to see some textures on this. So before I go any further, I am going to select the geo of his pants. I'm going to go into the attribute editor and go all the way over, grab the pants material. Well, let's just, there you go. Fancy pants. Now he looks naked. Good enough. I just need to be able to see them. Top half, bottom half. And so if I'm going to bring the hips around facing toward that leg a little bit, then I'm going to do the opposite with the upper body. So I'm going to just grab these two, pull them around this way, and then I'm going to get the shoulders up, clavicles up. Just get a pose here. Now I went for this pose first because I wasn't sure about my initial pose, which is going to be my first pose is going to be a little bit more relaxed. So I'm going for an extreme pose first, and then I can go backwards and find my other pose. You guys see that red line over there? Okay, so I select this is kind of important. So I select the elbow, and you can see that I can move the elbow in all these different axes. But I don't want to because we can't do that with our elbow, right? Our elbow can only bend the direction that our bicep is pulling it, right? I can't bend my elbow this way. My shoulder does that. Any other rotation that I have on my elbow is dictated through my shoulder. So I don't want to have the option twist my elbow this way, that way, or whatever. So on this rig, the rotation that I want is rotation Z. So I'm just going to grab all these other channels, X, Y, and then the translation channels. And I'm going to right click on them in the channel box, and I'm going to lock them. Boom. Good. Okay. Now, let's get this guy freaking out here. He's being guarded, trying to protect himself. So let's get his hands up. Like he's freaking out. One, and this one up. I want to be able to see that arm in the silhouette up here if I can, so I might take that elbow out a little bit, just play around with it a bit. I can find some negative space for it. Same with this one. Lock this elbow down. Hands up. Oh, see what I can find here. That's not bad. I'll live with that. Keep the elbows up. elbows up, protection, all that nonsense. Bang. So here's where he's going to say not. Bring the sound back. $60 is going to be face. So I'm just going to hold this pose here on 45, make sure the whole thing's keyed, and I'm going to drag that. Let's see, if we're going to go 60, he's going to go into his anticipation. Let's see, we'll make it 6 frames. So I'll copy this over to 54, and that will be the length of the hold that I'm going to have, my first hold. Then I'm going to have an anticipation in here and finally get to frame 60 where he says face. And on frame 60, let's get rid of that sound again. I'm going to have him shift his weight back over this leg. This foot can pivot. I'll pivot on the ankle. Knee can go over. He's going to be up a little bit. This foot is going to be up a little bit. Looks like he's about to mark his territory. Mark. Foot can come up. This arm will come out. It's kind of finding my pose as I go. Like I said, I've done this one before, but I'm not working off reference. Not good, but whatever. Don't judge me. You can judge me. Select this, select the torso together. Let's bend him over this way a bit. Ooh, scary. Knees are a little close together, so bring that knee a bit. Bring that foot up a bit. This is, we're getting into a tangent here. You guys remember what a tangent is? It's when there's 2 lines. It's a 2D animation thing, but it happens in 3D as well. It's when there's 2 pieces of a body that are occupying the same line, like this foot or this. See, this leg comes down into this leg, and so it makes us feel flat. It flattens out our pose. We don't want to flatten out our pose. That's bad news. Bad news. So we need to find ways to not flatten out our pose. Not always easy. Something like that. Let's see. I want to turn his head, but we don't want to lose his face. So keep his head over here. He's going to fall down. Let's correct his weight a little bit. Get it further over this leg. Again, mostly worried, concerning myself with what it looks like in the camera. I'm going to translate this shoulder up. The reason why I'm going to translate it is when I rotate it, it just changes the position here. I think that's snapping. Sometimes if I feel like when I'm moving something, it feels like it's snapping. You know, like I'm trying to translate something on screen or rotate something on screen. It feels like it's kind of. I'll just periodically double click on the tool over here, and it opens up the tool settings menu, and I'll just hit reset tool. And then if there's anything that we tend to, I say we, but I do it as well. We tend to hit keys, unintentionally do stuff in Maya that's like, oh, I've broken it. Gust of trust. Look at that. Really see those images, but they look lovely. Now I'm going to bring this shoulder. I'm going to rotate this one to get it in position. And we'll bring it around. Kind of like getting it, like trying to protect the face. But We do not, under any circumstances, want to um, hide the face. Now, the way that this overall, I'm looking at the curvature of this body, and the way that this body's curved is a way, you know, it makes sense. But what if I periodically stand up and think about different ways to do things? So even if my reference is dictating a certain thing, or my reference is showing me what I should be doing, I still try other things. I sort of have this like leave no stone unturned. So even if I'm happy with my animation, I don't get satisfied. I just make sure that I've tried everything. So right now I got this guy. He's leaning. He's got his leg up, leaning away like this. What if he was like this and was leaning the other way? And so I'll get up and I'll film myself doing it, or watch myself in the mirror. Either way, that's no picnic for me. But you know, I am what I am. So you know, watching our reference is never fun. But what if he was leaning this way? Like if the and one of the things that made me think about this is that because this leg is up, that means I have to bring this hip up that way. Well, if my hip is tilted up on this leg, then the rules of contrapposto is that my shoulders need to be tilted the opposite way. Well, now he looks like he's scared of something that's on the ground. That's not really the idea I'm going for. So now I can tilt his COG over and then just make some adjustments. Here to make adjustments. That's kind of cool. But I also want him twisted away from it. Body's going to be twisted. Looks like this is a little strong here. Pull that back a bit. So it might give me some more room. Kind of like that. Kind of. Not completely, but kind of. I was working on this movie, Night at the Museum, you know, from like way back in the days of yore. Anyway, I was at the studio animating, and there was a couple guys that I worked with that were going on set. And there's this actor, his name is Ben Stiller, and he was the actor in the movie. And I remember when they got back from being on set one day, and I said, "How was it?" And they said, "Yeah, it's good, but Ben Stiller's really arrogant." One of the guys said. And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, every time he does a shot, he goes back and he looks at he watches it, and he says, 'You can't see my face good enough. You can't see my face good enough.'" And then the other person who'd been doing this for a while said that he's not being arrogant at all. That's the name of the game. People are paying money to see Ben Stiller's face. He knows that that's his currency. You need to see his face. And then, you know, as I started working more and more in the film industry and animating character animation, that was always the thing, was like, we always want to see both eyes of your character, if at all possible. Always want to see both eyes. And we never want to put anything in front of their faces. Yeah? Yeah. And so you'll get lots and lots of comments from a director if you're doing that kind of stuff. All right, I'm cool with this pose. You know, cool enough. So I'm going to copy this pose, frame 70. Now I got to go back to one more pose, which is going to be my standard sort of just standing there pose. So I'm going to take this pose here on 45. I'm going to copy that back to frame 40. How I'm copying frames on the timeline is a mystery to me too. Not really. I'm going to putting my mouse on the frame, or putting the cursor on the frame that I want. Then I'm holding down my middle mouse button, dragging it over to the frame I want to copy it to, letting go of the middle mouse button, and hitting S. I just copied that pose. It's amazing. What? How does he do it? It makes it look so easy. Now we're going to just bring his weight up a bit. I'm just going to relax him a little bit. Bring his chest back. Bring the hips in slightly. Relax these arms. You guys hit me up with questions. Come on. I'm just talking to myself. I do this so often that I find that I do this even when I'm not with people. And then my kids will be like, who are you talking to, Dad? And then I'll lie to them as students. But I'm not. I'm just a little bit out of my head. How are we doing for time? Ooh, man, I better pick up the... There we go. Haven't done the fingers yet. So we got 1, 2, 3. There's 4 poses right there. Doesn't look that worried doing this. I want to just bring that shoulder up. What I'm doing here, I get asked a lot about what I'm doing. And fortunately, I can answer this one time. Whenever I'm translating, I like to move between world and object mode for my manipulators. So for example, the COG makes a good example. Let's say if I hold down W and left click, it brings up this menu and I'm in object mode. And what that means is that my manipulator is going to be pointing in the direction that my object is tilted, which could be helpful. But if I want to just bring them straight up or straight back, then I'd go to world mode, and then that's just my world coordinates. It just locks it to. So that could be helpful as well. Don't want them to move on a diagonal. Any suggestions for game animators? Yeah, I got a few. Stay hydrated. Don't forget what's important in your life. Be kind to animals. Don't eat foie gras. So for game animators, a lot of what you guys will be doing, or you people will be doing, is the big difference that I find is that the animation style is very, very fast because people are mashing buttons with their thumbs. And if the animation is slow, you're just going to hurt people's thumbs. So that goes back to be kind to animals. Doesn't really, that doesn't make sense. But so the animation is very, very fast. So what I find with film animators that navigate to games, or their animation's often a bit slow, and so they have to really, really pick it up. So what happens is things have to react fast and move quickly. Your paths of action are really important, or else it's going to look broken. I mean, they're always really important, but you only have a couple of frames to get from one pose to the other. And by a couple, I mean like a couple, 2, maybe 4, to get from one pose to the other. So every pose has to be perfect, which is in film animation as well. It's all the same stuff. It just seems like you can't hide stuff. I just want to say again, philosophically, or philosophically speaking about workflow, every single frame of your animation is a pose. This is important. This is an important concept. Regardless of whether or not you've put a key on it, it's still a pose, right? So when you play your shot for a director, they don't know where your keys are. They just see it and they step through it. They say, I don't like that pose. And you're like, well, that's not a pose because I didn't put a key on it. It's still a pose. And you're responsible for every single pose in your shot. whether you have a key on it or not. And that's an important distinction because we tend to like focus on our poses and then kind of slide through the in-betweens. Not okay. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Oop. Copy 60 over to 70. Okay, so now if I bring the sound back, if I bring the sound back, try it again, it looks like this. Boy, that gets old really quick. So now I have these holds. I'm going to make moving holds out of these. And so you see 45 and 54, exact same pose. So my character's locked. 60 and 70, exact same pose. So I want to get a little bit of a moving hold before I start to straight ahead this thing. Now, just to be clear, what I've just done here is known as pose-to-pose animation. I just basically built a roadmap for myself of a series of poses. 3 poses. 1, 2, 3. I have keyframes, 3 poses. I can play this for my director, and my director will go like, Mark, I just love it. This is a shot I would leave my family for. It's that good. Anyway, I don't advocate leaving your family for an animation shot. I want to be clear. I don't want to get any call from divorce lawyers being like, hey, so now I want to make a moving hold. I could animate a lot faster if I didn't think I was so damn funny. So I'm going to go to my graph editor, and you'll notice that everything is in stepped. Step keys, of course, are a style of key, or curve, I should say, that holds a pose until the next pose and it snaps it. That's what this line represents, which is great. We use that so we can just focus on our poses. We want to focus on our poses for as long as possible, because if we have bad poses, we have ultimately bad animation, what I call polishing turds. If your poses are bad, there's no way you're going to get in between them smoothly. So we want to make sure our poses work. So that's why we stay in stepped, so we don't get distracted by movement. And then we can also communicate our idea a lot more clearly. If I was just to spline this, you'd notice it would look weird. Weird. But I'm going to spline it because I want a moving hold here between 45 and 54, and I want a moving hold between 60 and 70. So the way I'm going to do that is in my graph editor, I'm going to convert my splines to linear, and then I'm going, because 45 and 54 are exactly the same, I'm going to delete 45. So now what I have is I have 2 poses on 40 and 54. So I want to set up a hold on 45 that favors 54, but isn't exactly like 54. You get my drift. So I'm going to put my cursor on 52. You can see that 52 is a pose that favors 54. Got a little bit of 40 in there, but it favors 54. So I'm going to key 52. And then I'm going to select it by holding down Shift and left click and making it red. Then I'm going to drag it to 45. Now we go, whoo. Oh, and then I got to put it back in the spline. And now I go, it's cushion, or ease in. Now I'm going to go to frame 60. I'll put this back in linear. Delete frame 60. Go to frame 68. Key that because it's a pose that favors 70, but it's not quite there. Drag it back to 60. Now I have my slow ins, or my cushions. Peace. 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 Now I'm going to go back to my settings. I'm going to go to animation and turn my default out tangents to auto. Boom. Hit save. Now, instead of having 30 frames of animation, I now have 5 frames of animation here, and I have 6 frames of animation here. So now I only have 11 frames of animation. That's not true, but now my job is to find pose transitions within these, to transition my poses within these frames. So I'm going to take my timeline, drag it down here to 54 because that's the end of my hold. And now I just want to add a little bit of overlap here. The first thing I want to do is just check out my COG, see what it's doing. It's pretty straightforward. This is my translation Y. Translation Y on the COG is hugely important because that gives us gravity. That feels good. I'm not really moving in Z, which is forward and back. Not really doing much of that yet. And X, not really doing much of that either. I'm just translation Y. That's great. So now I'm going to move up to my chest, shift select these two. And as I'm coming down, 1, 2, go 3 frames in, I'm going to rotate my chest up a little bit. And then I'm going to take frame 45 and move it to 46. I'm just getting a little bit of drag. I'll need to do the same thing with the hips because the hips and the chest are intrinsically connected. So I'm going to move my hips over to frame 46. I'm going to go whatever that was that I was doing. I'm going to bring my hips down a little bit, curl that pelvis under ever so slightly, and then it will come in same way that my chest does. I also want to check my curves to make sure I'm not getting too plateaued. I want to have a nice little bit of drift in there. We call it the imperceptible drift, which means you don't necessarily see it. We don't want to see this character floating, and we don't want to see them drifting, but we don't want to feel them freeze. That's the whole imperceptible drift. Awesome. Let's grab the head. I'm going to pull that 1 frame later as well for an offset as the body's coming down. I'm going to lift that head up. Actually, let's start at the beginning. Tilt the head down a little bit over to the side just to break things up. Make that pose a bit more interesting. Let's get the neck in there as well. So now I'll make the neck, bring the neck out 1 frame. Now as we're coming down, I can lift that head up a little bit. Got a little bit of drag. I'm going to offset this 1 frame so the head kind of hits a little faster. In fact, let me just take both of these and bring that head down even later. It doesn't play that smoothly, so I'll just do a quick play blast. I have my play blast set up at number 0 for a hotkey, so I can just hit 0 really quick. If it's sluggish, there we go. I want a little more tension in that head, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Over. Copy that to 54. I should have posed it on 54 instead. Now I'll have to delete it and go to 52, key that, make that 47, and that's going to give you my slow. It's just a really quick way to give yourself a bit of cushion. You don't have to live with it, but it'll give you a bit of cushion. I find it distracting when I'm going into my holds. If anything in my hold, which starts now here at frame 47, if anything goes and locks up, that distracts me. So that's why I do that first, because I just want to feel that cushion a little bit, and then I can get on with the business of polishing. Shoulders. This is a same thing. I'm going to go, well, the whole arm actually. 1, 2, 3 frames in. We're coming down, so I'm going to pull that shoulder up high. I'm going to rotate this arm or this wrist down. I'll just use my period and comma keys to tap through this. We get this little flick up with the wrist. There's a weird little bump there. This is one of the things that happens with FK arms, which I find one of the reasons why I like to work with IK arms a lot, is because this stuff's moving till frame 46. And is offset. These things, like here's what I'm trying to say. With FK arms, there's multiple controllers that are controlling the arm. There's the 4 controllers that are on the arm. And when I say controlling the arm, what I mean is there's multiple controllers that are dictating where the position of my hand is, which is really what we're concerned about here. What my hand is doing, because it's an extremity, it's on the outskirts of my motion. If it's doing anything weird, having any weird paths of action, that stuff's going to scream at me. So I need to be able to control where my wrist is at all times and get marks. With FK arms, I have the COG controlling it. I have three fine controls that are controlling it, and then I have 4 controllers down the arm that are controlling where my wrist is. That's 8 controllers. That's more than I need. If I had an IK hand, it would be 1. Now, you'll say, Mark, but IK is hard because it sticks. Well, it all sticks. You just unstick it. We're in FK now. We're going to roll with it. So I'm going to, I'm not going to worry too much about the position of the arm and how it's kind of bouncing around. The problem with it is it's getting to its pose here on 45, and then the body's still going forward. So it's giving us this weird path of action. And you can see it if I select the wrist and I go into my visualize, create editable motion trail, and then I have to turn motion trails on here. You'll be able to see the path of action of that hand. It gets all kind of weird in there. See that? Right there. So what I'm going to do first is get rid of that motion trail because it didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. And I'm going to take the entire chain of this arm for now, and I'm just going to move it out so it's timed with the chest. Make sure there isn't anything else that's going to goof around with that. And now you'll see if I throw a motion trail in there again, likely going to be a little smoother. Still not exceptional, but it smoothed that out a little. Good enough for now. See you later, motion trail. Been fun. Okay, same thing with this arm. Just shift select all the way down the chain. These 4 controllers, did I get them all? And move them to 46. And then go here to 43, simple in between. Jack that up. I'm going to pull that elbow down slightly, rotate this wrist in. Now I have something that looks like this. Not bad. I want to offset those arms, all that kind of stuff. But good enough for now. Next, we will go to this transition, 54 to 60. Now, what I want here in the middle of these two is I want an anticipation pose, down and up. So when I'm building an anticipation pose, or what a lot of people like to call breakdown poses, and a breakdown pose and an anticipation pose is kind of the same thing. Breakdown pose is a little bit more ambiguous, but we're going to just throw one in here. What I'm going to do with my breakdown pose, I'm going to first make sure that my feet are both on the floor because I want to push my weight down, and I need to have both feet on the floor to support that. So I just go in between here, and I do it spline. I'm not inventing this pose from nothing in step mode. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm letting Maya kind of buy me some semblance of where my character was and where they're going to be. So I let Maya help me with this. I'm going to select this foot. I'm going to go back to frame 54, and I'm going to middle mouse drag, which is copied over here to 57. Then I'm going to grab my COG and just push it down. And you'll say, Mark, how dare you? But you'll notice, as soon as I push that down, oh, it's 1,000 times better. It's the first thing I do when I'm making an in-between. Push the damn weight down on the COG. Why wouldn't you do it? Well, you would do it. As soon as you get that dip in the COG, it opens up a whole world of potential overlapping action, which is what my whole point is. I'm always looking for opportunities to add overlapping action to my animation because it just looks better. So now that my COG is coming down and over, grab this these two chest controllers. This arm can go up. Shoulder can go up. This elbow can come out. Wrist can drag a little bit behind. Head'll drag somewhat. It's happening so fast. It's a 6-frame transition, so it's fast. So you can like exaggerate some of this stuff. Let's see. How fun is that? Woo! Woo! I mean, that's a bit extreme. But kind of fun at the same time. You see what you can get away with? Because it's super, super fast. Well, let's not do that. But I will get a lot of drag here. I'm going to get the hips. I'll get the shoulder to come over. Don't forget the clavicles, you guys. Come on. That's his thumb. I don't want that. Okay. Quick play blast. Yeah, look at that. Let's open it up. Let's bring the sound back. Another quick play blast. Now, there's clearly a lot to do in here. Seems a little slow in the beginning, doesn't he? Let's speed him up.
Hit in the face! Hit in the face! Hit in the face!
Okay, that's good enough. Now, some of you have seen this before. I've gone through it and I've added some like handshakes to the other one that I did, and like some flourishes that add some further detail. And I'll show you that when we're finished doing a facial pass on this. But I just wanted to get it to a point where we could start putting some facial animation in there. Yeah. So the first thing when I go in, so let's crack that open here. Let's say we're now ready to do a facial pass, which we're not really, but we're going to do it anyhow. I'm going to bring the face back, but now I need to hide the rest of the controls, and I can't do it there. So I'm going to go into the outliner, and I'm going to open the David Rig group, and I'm going to select main. I'm going to make a layer of that, from that main, and I'm going to hide it. And that should leave me face controls. I also got these cool things. Which is kind of all I probably need. Not really. So the first thing I want to do is select everything, frame 40, key it, and I want to get just kind of a general facial pose. And so he's I don't want him just to be stuck with this kind of like so handsome, this kind of bland face. I want him to be a little bit alarmed. This, looking into my camera view, this part of his face is closest to me, so I'm going to stretch this part of his face and compress this side of his face. So this eye will be a little bit wider and this brow will be up a little bit higher. That kind of thing. I'll even, let's see, take this controller. I'm a little new to this rig. Pull his jaw over this direction slightly. Like anything else with animation, I'm just looking for simple shapes. So overall, the way I'm looking at this head is, again, like kind of like a bean, you know, like sort of this shape. Show you what I mean as soon as I turn on. Right? So it's this malleable object, just like a body. So it wouldn't be any different than you know, character walking, right? Same way I look at the head character. But it's true. And so and yes, I giggle maniacally when I'm at work as well. So that's kind of the same thing I'm going for. And you can, like, you know, you can push that stuff depending on the parameters of your project. So let's push it. Why not? He is kind of worried. He's not angry. He's kind of worried. We can do this. These mouth corners down slightly. Oh. Don't like that. This thing. I think there's other controllers here I'm missing. Supposed to be more. Haven't unlocked it. See if our old friend Arrow visits on aim, body mechanics off. What is that? Body mechanics. Oh, geez. There, we're done. Look at that. Oh, I see. It's just a body geo full. There was more to this. On. Rubber control. All right. Well, we'll work with it. Have these controllers. Because this is tilted this way, I'm also going to add a little bit of compression. Lids. Keep his eyes wide. Pull this side of the nose up a little bit. Get a little bit of tension. This is also, I think, a jaw open and close. Ooh, that's pretty good, actually. You want to use that instead of this. I think I'll use them both. That looks pretty. And then push some of these up. Take that out here. Don't do that. Okay. Now we're gonna go into the word not, which is going to be I'm gonna put it on frame 44. So in frame 44, I'm just gonna make everything kind of like big. Now I'm gonna have a compression before that on frame 42, but on 44, I'm gonna just stretch his head up a little bit. I'm gonna bring his mouth open, like so. I don't like how this makes him smile. I want more control over that. Oops. And not. So the mouth is going open, but I also want the upper lips to be up a little bit just for some of that tension. You can see a little bit of those upper teeth. That's a good thing. I'm going to widen the mouth slightly. All this stuff is going to now come down. Too much. You can just zero it out for now. The brows are going to come up. Now on some rigs, and I hope this one has it, I'm not sure, you can scale the eye a bit. Or just up, across, just slightly. So I can go back 2 frames now. I'm going to get a bit of squash. So here I go. Squash. Place these. I should have probably done a key here first before I I don't like to move the eyebrows, like, I don't like to get too crazy with the eyebrows, especially when I'm blocking this stuff in. They just end up looking like caterpillars crawling across the face, which is fun, but a blink thing on here? There might be. Oh, I bet it's here. Nope. Blink, center, upper lid, lower lid. That too. Blink driven. Blint. Oh, that's pretty good. Ooh, look at that. Squint. Yes. That's awesome. Take this middle one and push it in. Watch. Now we got not, and we're gonna go to in the. Hey Sarah, how are you? Um, do I have a background in 2D animation? Sorry, I've been ignoring you guys. Been super into my own thing. Yeah, I do have a bit of a background in 2D animation. I was taught. I learned initially as a 2D animator. I spent a very very brief time. I was actually still a student when I got my first job. As a 2D animator at a studio in Vancouver called Bardell. And I was animating for a TV show called, it was a TV special called The Christmas Orange. Um, and I stunk at it. I was terrible. Um, while I was working on The Christmas Orange, they were also working on a movie called Sinbad, which was a feature film 2D animation project. So it uses that big, feature film paper, and they were using these crazy tiny LEDs, and they were doing in betweens and cleanup. And that film was like it was a it was super hard because they didn't want all the holds had to be moving holds, and in 2D you don't do a lot of moving holds because it means like you just have to draw like a bazillion things. But they wanted moving holds in that, and so I tried working on that thing, and I just tapped out. I'm pretty heavy handed. Like when I draw, I'm kind of like carving. I'm way better if I'm going to do anything as a 2D animator. I'm way better doing roughs, cleanup. I'm not good at cleanup in any part of my life. I'm good at making messes. So I would get this like mechanical pencil with these like 0.0005 centimeter leads or whatever. It's basically like a hair, and I go click, 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 and this invisible freaking lead would come out. I'd be like, what am I gonna do with that? And I swear to God, like I'd get within like an inch of the paper and it would just break. It knew better. It's like it would just get scared. Snap! I'm like, oh, you won't even allow me to touch you to the paper because you know I'm gonna smash. So basically, the leads were committing suicide before I even touched the paper. Because the reason why the leads were so small is because we're trying to fit so many drawings in between the key poses. So a good friend of mine who's a wonderful 2D animator and a brilliant traditional artist, he was working on it, and he put up two drawings, and it was a close-up of a pupil of an eye. Not that close. About that close. And the eye was blinking. So he put up two drawings, and they were like, you could, and then he put his backlight up so you could see, but it was backlit. And so you could see like it was these two like razor thin lines that were almost touching. And he's like, when I was sort of thinking about taking the job, and I looked at it and I'm like, yeah, I could probably fit a drawing between those two drawings. It'd be tight, but I could probably get a drawing between there. And he's like, no, I have to get three. I was like, what? How are you going to fit three drawings? And he's like, really, really carefully. So that was that gig. And so it was right around then that I'm like, I'm going to try this computer stuff. So that's how I got into 3D. But I'm doing well, Sarah. Thank you. The 2D background stuff was really, really valuable because you learn about like one of the very first um, lessons I had, or whatever you call it, was just moving shapes, right? So, and I'm drawing with a mouse, so forgive me. But they gave me like a box. And that was pose 1. And then they gave me the same box. My proportions are a bit off. I'm drawing with a mouse. Give me a break. And then they said in between those two. Well, you could, because it'd be coming closer to you, obviously. But anyways, you know, you learn like, well, what we want to do is we want to go from, you know, this corner over with an arc. Oops. One more time. To that corner, right? And this corner. To that corner. So you find your in-betweens are like here. You know, those, well, your in-between of this corner would be like here, and your in-between of this corner would be like here. Whatever. And then you know, you'd find the corners here, and then you draw a line. And you'd find your in-between, and you'd say, well, what's the point of that? And you're like, well, this is just a hand, you know, example. And so as we're working at this stuff, and as we're making things move, we get the stream is not entitled Boxer. Smart ass. We get distracted by the fact that we're moving in depth when you're working in Maya, but we're not concerned about moving back and forth. I mean, we are, but we're not really. What we're concerned with is how things move horizontally and vertically. So when I look at my 3D animation shots, having a bit of a 2D background and knowing that I'm really just working with a flat plane keeps everything simple for me, and I'm not getting distracted by the 3D space, because I don't want to be distracted by the 3D space. I want to plot my arcs and consider my poses and my movements between the poses in a flat 2D space. Horizontal, vertical, 2Ds. Well, an NH and a V. Does that make sense? I hope so. Anyway. So I'm going to go on frame 47. Well, let's first make sure everything's keyed here on all of my poses. And now on 47, I'm going to get into the word in. Put it on 47. Now, instead of just making all of this stuff fresh, I'm going to see if there's anything I can kind of steal from here. So I have this scrunch. I could use the lower half here for the word in. So I'm going to key 41. And I'm going to drag it over and put that on 47. Then I'm going to delete 41. Bring that to 46, actually. I want to snap into that a little faster. So now I will go in here and I'll adjust this pose. But I can kind of start from somewhere. He looks a little drunk. Not that I know what looking drunk is. Zero all this stuff off. I want to get a bit more squash. Bring that mouth up a bit, but I want to see the teeth because he's saying the word in. Come on. Come on. Stretch that up. Ooh. What this thing does. Make him smile. want to see some teeth? Bring that stuff up a bit. Get a little compression. I don't like to compress this thing too much because it makes the skull all bouncy and goofy. I thought this thing did it, but that just seems to place it a little bit. So zero off that guy. Maybe pulling that in a bit will give us a bit of that, distorting it too much. So right here on 51, I'm going to add in the F. Now, here's a quick little rule of thumb for lip sync is F's, B's. I'm going to turn off the manipulator. F's, B's, P's, anywhere where the mouths are closed, are F or doing this shape. F's, V's, P's, B's, M's, all that kind of stuff. You got to hold that for 2 frames or it won't read. It'll make your character, if you don't hold it for 2 frames, your character will look kind of slack-jawed. So I'm going to go to here to 51, and I'm going to build a pose here for the F, which is similar to what I already have, but it's going to be even better. Curl bottom lip in a little bit. Oh, shush. And as that's all compressing up, I want to get all of this stuff going up as well. And like everything on the F, everything is being pulled like right here. So even the brows, not enough. I'm going to bring the brows down. Brows down. I'm going to get this squint thing going on. Yes, yes. Bloop, bloop. Oh yeah, tighten those lips. Oh yeah, look at that. Sticky lips. Zip lips. Not sure what that does. Don't really care. All right. Getting our face. Gosh. Okay, so we're gonna hold this. So just like I did before, I'm gonna have to get a little the. So I'm gonna have to get a little bit of a pop to go back up into the F. But he says face. Right here. So that hold, that F hold, is gonna hold until 54. And then 56, we're going to pop open. I'm just going to borrow 44 and put that on 56. And then I'm going to borrow 54 and put that on 61. It's going to look like this.
the face. Not in the face. Not in the face. Not in the face. Not in the face.
Yes. Okay. Where are we at? 10:30. I got 20 minutes to polish this turd. So, I don't like this final pose for face, but that's okay. I can tweak that easy. What I want to have, though, hang on, I gotta watch that one more time.
Not in the face. Not in the face.
Okay, so instead of going into this pose here, the face pose on 56, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to take this F pose back to 53. And I'm going to give myself an extra frame in here. Do a blink. I'm going to steal my blink on 52. I'm going to put that on 53. Quick play blast, because my computer won't play it fast enough.
Not in the face.
Bigger so we can see it.
Not in the face.
Okay, so I want to really get that blink to read. So I'm going to start it. I'm going to delete my pose on 53. Get that blink happening. Oops. Oh, hang on. Settle down. Make sure everything's keyed on 51 first and 50, whatever this is, 5. Let's delete 53. We start moving into that. Before we come out in the face. 61, I'm going to move over to 62, and what I'm going to do with that is oh, gotta have the aim on 10 on this eye, I think, to follow. Now that looks pretty extreme. Because it probably is. I don't like that. Whatever I got going on there, that's gotta come to an end. That's bad. Here too. Here too. You don't really see it there, but we might as well just do it properly. Yep, that sucks. Get rid of that. And this. Throughout the whole thing. What the heck am I talking about?
Not faith. Not in the faith. Not in the faith. Not in the faith.
Okay. Now, we're missing one little beat. Right there. Move that. And key 48. I'm going to get a little bounce right here on, oops, what the hell was that? What the, I'm going to get a little bounce right here on 50. Going to be subtle. Just stretch the head out a little bit. Now, I don't like, I want to keep all this stuff up, and it's starting to, see how it's all sinking down here. 46, so that's the right there. That's the eyebrows I just copied over. Now I'm also going to do this. I'm going to bring the mane back. Key the head on 48. And on 50, I'm going to go and just give a little bounce to the head.
Not in the face.
Let's give it a little more. A little more. And let's do this too at the beginning. You know how it seems a little bit soft in the beginning? I did not rig this. Hey, Nicola. Abu, I think that's how I pronounce your name. I didn't rig this. This is an online rig that's available for purchase, and so I purchased it.
Not in the face. Not in the face. Not in the face.
I don't like how that head kind of comes back down again. So goes up, then comes down. I'm gonna keep it up a little bit. Now, the other thing I want to do is it looks pretty good. The title of my stream is confusing, Sarah. What did I title my stream? What's it called? Isn't it just 3D animation with Pullyblank? Now, see how when he's coming down, I don't have a mirror, Luca. I did for years have a mirror at my desk, but you know, right around the time I turned 30, me and mirrors stopped getting along so well. We had a tragic parting. But no, you should keep a mirror. I have a webcam, so I just use that. So same thing. So I guess the answer to that question is yes. So I feel like the knot feels a little soft and a little evenly timed. So I want to just add what's known as texture to my timing. And so here's a way to do that. So here's my head. And I'll just add a little. This little shake.
Not in the face.
Woo!
Not in the face.
Well, that is confusing.
Not in the face. Not in the face. Not in the face.
Let's go. I don't know, Sarah. I thought I updated it. I meant to update it. I mean, I did update it and hit publish or whatever the hell. I don't know. I mean, all these newfangled. I'm turning this too much, so let's bring that back a little bit. And then here, I'm going to continue it just slightly so it doesn't settle quite so fast. Bring in my timeline so I don't have to play blast the whole thing. Yeah. And also, we can, let's try this. I'm going to just offset this entire arm. So it gets to where it's going earlier than this one. Then, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky for detail. Start adding some like hand gestures. You see how much faster that seems like now? And I haven't changed the overall timing. I've just added some texture. Sebastian, thank you for your kind words. It's my pleasure. I love this. So there it is. That was how long did that take me to do that? Something like a half an hour, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. Still lots of work to do, but it's getting there. You know, add a little wiggle to that hand. Oh my gosh. Bake it in the oven. Well, we have 5 minutes left, nerds. Oh, any questions? Ooh, I got to get that foot to push off there. Coming up. I'm not feeling a push off of that foot. Gotta do this. Yeah, that's no good. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab that whole foot. There we go. And I'm gonna keep it on the ground as long as possible. Sarah, I have not checked out your kangaroo rig yet. You know how I love kangaroos. I want to keep that on there. Start bringing that toe up. Nope. This is footwork. There it is. I found my first reference for a basic hop. Can that count as a quadruped walk? No. Don't think so. Not a quadruped. So I'm going to offset this rotation X here. To get some overlap. feel that peel off the ground.
Not in the faith. Not in the faith. Not in the faith.
They what? A kangaroo is not a quadruped.
Not in the faith. Not in the faith.
I will fight you to the death. Multiped? That's not even a thing. Hey, like that. Ooh, what did I just do? I ruined everything. Well, thank you everyone for putting in the time. I appreciate it. It was really fun. I love this stuff. Plus, it's a good exercise to animate something in a tight.
Not in the faith.
Well, that was longer than half an hour. It was like almost 2 hours it took me.
Not in the faith.
But
Not
yeah.
in the faith.
And I haven't checked the arcs or the arms coming up. Like there's just tons and tons of cleanup. There's another couple hours in this thing at least. But I just wanted to get it from T-pose into broad posing, a little bit of cleanup. And you can see like my workflow. You're welcome, Kirsty. My workflow is because I've been doing it since the dawn of time. I'm building things into my initial poses that lessen the amount of time I have to spend on cleanup. And you notice that there's not a lot of cleanup. There's mostly just adding an overlap and just going straight ahead. I'm not cleaning anything up. And there was a time, an extended period of time in my animation career when I'd block things out and then I would kind of hold my nose and spline it. There'd be all kinds of things that were broken and flying out of control. And just over time I've learned to like prepare during my blocking phase of my my methodology. I've learned to block out better so there's less surprises. All right, I'm glad it was helpful. Thank you everyone. There'll be one more of these next Friday at the same time, and then there'll be a 2-week break while we enjoy our Yuletide. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. I will see you all next week, hopefully. All right. Bye-bye.